Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Was Neglected and Escapes to Kumo, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Konoha Council Room, 3 days after Teams 7 and 8 left Wave. Fugaku really hated the headache that council meetings caused him. Unfortunately, this was a really important one and it had to do with Kiri, Wave and Kumo. Fugaku called the chamber to order before asking Kakashi and Kurenai to recount the mission to Wave. The council interrupted multiple times and multiple times they were told to hold all questions to the end. It was as if they didn't know how to write questions down or something. Finally, Kakashi made it to the end of the story and the room was in an uproar. How dare that Genin attack our Uchiha clan heir? If he comes for the Chunin exams, we should have him executed. Screamed out the Banshee's mother, Mibuyuki Haruno. Shikaku Nara, shut that down. Could you ever use your inside voice, Counselor Haruno? Do you always have to be so calmy damn troublesome? Anyway, Kakashi-san, you said the Kumo Genin were significantly stronger than our own. Could you evaluate them for us please? Kakashi was ready for this and prepared a milquetoast answer. Physically they dwarfed our Genin. Probably 3 to 4 times stronger. I would put their skills at mid to high Chunin. They did confirm that there were educational reforms in Kumo, but they wouldn't divulge any more information than that. Well then why should we even let them take the Chunin exams in our village? Asked some nameless civilian. Hiyashi Hyuga spoke. We have signed a non-aggression pact with Kumo. According to international law, we must allow them representatives. To turn them away would bring massive shame upon Konoha. Fugaku spoke. Hiyashi-san is right. We cannot turn them away. We will try to get in their way a little bit, but there is really nothing that we can do without risking severe international scandal. Inoiki Yamanaka spoke. Do our kids stand a chance against them? Kakashi sighed, but Kurenai decided to take this question. If we devote the rest of the time before exams to training, there is a chance. The one that we must watch out for is Ruto. The Genin that fought against Zabuza Momoki as an equal, somehow turned the tide of the Kiri civil war, took down Gato and bested Sasuke Uchiha with no hands. Yeah, I would say we need to watch out for him. How is he even a Genin? Asked Chusa Akamaiki while chuckling wryly. According to Ruto, who was pleasant to talk to by the way, a highly intelligent kid, the Raikage wants all of his Genin to gain field experience under leadership of Jonin. The kid only graduated from Kumo's academy 3 months ago. As strong as the Genin are, they are still Genin. Kakashi said, easily downplaying Ruto's threat level. Danzo's scowl echoed across the council chamber. It is these divine bolts of Kumo that I am worried about. They are 6 apprentices under the strongest ninjas of Kumo and they will be coming here. What's worse is that they were in Kiri. Why does that make it worse, Danzo-sama? Asked Shikaku with analytical eyes. Because we were supporting the bloodline purges to weaken our enemies. If they have proof of that, or the new Mizukage knows about it, things will get bad for Konoha. Have they responded to any envoys or the invitation to the exams? No and yes, they requested time alone in peace to focus on rebuilding. Replied Fugaku. Danzo and the elders seemed pensive before Hiruzen spoke up. So, you are telling me that we were meddling in a foreign civil war, picked the wrong side, picked the side widely considered to be evil and then to top it all off, the current Mizukage may or may not have proof that we were supporting the toppled regime. Bravo Danzo, and you wondered why I limited your darker urges. There were a couple muffled snorts of laughter from the clan heads, specifically the Inoshikacho squad and Tsume. Danzo scowled deeply and the tension rebuilt in the council room. That is enough, Sarutobi-san. This is no longer your reign as Hokage. We are flexing our power throughout the elemental nations and will establish the Leaf as the #1 hidden village. Respectfully, Hokage, that had been our position since the creation of the village. I would like to point out that our civilian economy has dropped by nearly 2% annually, our border skirmishes are up 40% since you took over. Enough, bellowed Fugaku and Hiruzen stood up and walked out of the room. Fugaku fumed at the previous Hokage. Stupid weak-willed, one-armed fool. Fugaku raged in his mind. The rest of the council meeting devolved into chaos and nothing productive happened. Itachi watched the whole debacle from the shadowed corner of the room and knew that time was running out on the Konoha she once loved. Back in Kumo, 1 week after returning from Wave, Teams 12 and 13, better known as the Divine Bolts, reported into Ai's office early in the morning to see all of their masters waiting. The Bolt guards cleared the room at a simple twitch of the finger from the Raikage, and Kushina set up a privacy seal. I started the meeting off, "Okay everyone, I wanted to let you kids know how proud I am of you. Between the two squads, you have all set a new bar for elite genin fresh out of the academy. A brief recap, you blew away academy standards, you stood above your peers and demonstrated the excellence expected of future leadership in Kumo. You fought against 2 unjust tyrants and liberated 2 lands, both of which will become valuable allies in the future. Team 13 recently completed a mission in the land of rice paddies and made such a good impression that the Daimyo will be scoping us out at the upcoming Chunin exams. In short, we and the people of Kumo are proud of you." They all bowed to the Raikage and thanked him for investing so much into them. The senseis looked on proudly at their apprentices, but they knew the hard part was yet to come. I continued. "In a little over 1 month's time, you will all be going to Konoha for the Chunin exams. To be straightforward, I believe each of you is ready for your Chunin promotions, but I need you all to show up Konoha in these exams and make a statement. Make no mistake, they will do everything they can to put extra obstacles in your way while clearing the way for their own genin. Your status as Divine Bolts paints a sizable target on your backs, so you will watch each other's backs while in Konoha. In addition to the Chunin exams, your extra S-ranked mission is to infiltrate the Uzumaki and Namikaze compounds and recover all things of value and import. Naruto and Kushina were denied the proper inheritance by that corrupt village, and we will get it back for them. The following is an A-ranked secret that you will not let leave this room. Orochimaru and the Sand will be launching a punitive invasion of Konoha during the finals. Your extra mission is to use the chaos of this time to infiltrate the Hokage vault located in the Hokage mansion. You will wear special uniforms that will erase your chakra signatures, and they will not tie you to Kumo. If you are compromised during this part of the mission, a failsafe seal will activate and destroy your body. This is an S-ranked mission and I believe you will be able to handle it. Your senseis will accompany hanged shadow clones to the safety bunkers, except for Kushina, who will be there to assist you with any advanced seals that get in your way. You have the next month mission free to train to your heart's content before you set out for Konoha. Naruto, you will be spending 5 days a week with me while the blood clone holds down the paperwork. Questions? No. Good. Dismissed. The training throughout the month was even more intense than usual. Naruto spent most days with Ai working on enhancing his lightning armor. He could activate stages 1 and 2, but the final stage still eluded him. I told him that it is all about practice. Naruto started each day climbing, Deadman's Climb, up and down twice with nearly 400 pounds in a rucksack, on top of his current weight and resistance seals. He worked with the Eagle clan during the evenings to master his wind nature chakra and was to the point where he could part the water in his pool with just 2 hands using wind or water chakra natures. He adapted the B-ranked jutsu, Raiten, Thunderclap, into the Storm Release variant, which was easily an A-ranked ranged jutsu. He was working 1 day a week with Darui to master the 2-element Storm Release, Laser Circus. Due to the destructive nature of these chakra exercises, Naruto had to use B's training ground. He would leave 200 clones there every morning, and clones would perform the jutsu one at a time and provide real-time feedback to each other to improve the jutsu without wasting so much chakra. Naruto mastered his chakra reinforcement exercises, and he was working on developing new control exercise to maintain his rate of improvement. There were 2 primary reinforcement jutsu that Naruto was working on, his storm chains and his lightning armor. Both exercises were so chakra intensive that he couldn't use shadow clones to speed up training on them. I monitored his use of the lightning armor while Kushina provided feedback on his storm chains. Naruto's kenjutsu style was wild. He worked on mastering the style he created with Kushina for his greatsword, dubbed Barbarian's Tide, since incorporated elements of the Whirlpool 2-handed style, but it focused more on raw strength and finesse, which suited the 6'2" Hanyu. His mother gave him a new katana from the Azu armory after she admonished him for giving an Uzumaki blade to a total stranger. She helped him master the unseen blade style with the katana, which focused on bursts of speed that led into a series of strikes. This style was unique because each sequence began and ended with unsheathing, striking and then sheathing the blade. It was an extremely unpredictable style that capitalized on Naruto's extreme speed. Naruto could easily switch between lightning, wind and water chakra channeling on his blades as well for added versatility. That's enough of the training talk, because our boy became a man during this 1-month training intermission. As the training time drew to a close, everyone's nerves stood on high alert. They all knew the importance and risks involved with their upcoming mission. The threat of a sudden death tends to cause people to open up about their feelings. This led to Archoi confessing to Tayuya after asking Naruto and Kushina for permission. As a result, Archoi recently started dating Tayuya. The fiery puns and innuendos flowed freely between members of the DBs, the shortened name the group came up with for the Divine Bolts. Tayuya also let the group know that she walked in on Killer Bee and Anko, which had evidently been a thing for almost the past year. That explained why Bee stopped rapping in front of Anko. Okay, maybe it didn't, but everyone figured that Anko used a liberal number of snakes to threaten the habit out of Bee. Whatever works, the two lovers seemed to be very happy in each other's company. One unforeseen development was I confessing his love for Kushina. The two had worked very closely together over the past 9 years and they had become a dynamic duo for the sake of Kumo. Nobody could miss the longing glances that I cast at the sun-kissed blonde Kunoiki, or the less frequent parting glances that Kushina gave him. Naruto eventually had enough of it and sat his mother down to talk one night after training. They were relaxing in their onsen while sipping on some sake to spend some quality mother-son bonding time in some place that wasn't the training grounds. The conversation proceeded per the usual status quo until Naruto chucked a wrench in the gears. Ka-chan, I don't want to upset you, but could I ask you a personal question? Kushina responded after sipping some sake. Of course, Sochi, what is it? Do you love Uncle I? Kushina spit out her current sip of sake before reacting in a clearly flustered manner. What makes you say that, SS Sochi? Naruto pointed to his nose and then his eyes. Look, Mom, I am all for it. I realize that it may not be my place, but Dad would want you to be happy. You have honored him, you have been a great mother to me, Tayuya, Anko and more recently Rias. He wouldn't want you to be alone. I know it isn't quite the same thing, but I believe you can love more than one person at once. If you listen to your heart and find love in Ioji, then I believe Dad would be proud of you in the next life. Hikari-chan did promise to send us to the demonic realm where we could see Dad again, but I don't think he would hold it against you. I guess what I mean to say is that I want you to be happy, Mom. I love you so much that I want that for you. Kushina would remain quiet and reflective for the rest of the night, but that was the night that would lead to a long and happy relationship. With the idea firmly planted, Kushina would talk to Anko, Tayuya and all of her most trusted friends to see what they thought about it. It led to a unanimous decision that eroded her will and in time would become something beautiful. After the month of training was up, all of Kumo gathered at the gates to bid farewell to their divine bolts and wish them luck in the Chunin exams. Massive cheers greeted the summoning of Virginia, which she grew to appreciate. The regal bird of prey strutted around outside the gates and would nestle into the open hands of children. As the DBs mounted Virginia with Darui and Sheena, a deafening roar of cheers chased Virginia as she took off. In a command tower of a megacore, Hattori Hanzo, better known by his moniker of Hanzo the Salamander, bid farewell to his granddaughter and her genin team. The civil war in Am ended nearly 20 years ago when he worked with a faction called the Akatsuki to drive Danzo and his route out of Am. He then worked to secure his nation's borders and bring prosperity to the people of Am. He was getting old and had planned on handing off the lure of Cage of Am to the man who brought peace to Am, Yahiko. Hanzo remembered rolling the dice with the Akatsuki faction and taking a leap of faith since both factions wanted to bring peace of Am and ensure that their nation would no longer be the battlefield for the so-called great nations. It was a sentiment that Hanzo shared, and it was his greatest roll of the dice to bring the young trio into the fold and under his wing. He had taken them all on as apprentices after they confronted him, and it was then that he learned that they had been taught for 3 years by Jiraiya. Before the genin teams departed, Hanzo called Yahiko, Konan and Nagato to him. You three will lead the three most promising teams of Amgenin to the Chunin exams in Konoha. We are all aware that Konoha is stoking the flames of war, and I want you to send a clear message that this will not be tolerated. Ensure there is no foul play and have faith in the training we provided to our teams. There will be teams from Kumo, Sand, Taki, Kusa, Oto and Konoha there. I have heard great things about the Kumo team, and I would like you to attempt to start a positive relationship with them. Provide these instructions to your Genin teams as well. I believe the time for Konoha to fall rapidly approaches, and it will be Kumo that assumes the leadership mantle. Do not tell your Genin to pull punches but fight with honor and leave a good impression. Yahiko, my daughter is in your care, and I expect you to look out for her. No mere Genin will best her, so be on guard for foul play. That is all, you are dismissed, and I will see you in the finals. The three shinobi bowed to their leader, knowing that he did not require a response to such simple instructions. They all locked eyes before gathering their teams and beginning the 3-day trek to Konoha. Konoha, 3 days before the start of the Chunin exams. Fugaku called his daughter and nephew Shisui to his desk to assign an important task to the pair. They knelt in front of him, 2 of the most powerful Uchiha and the 2 most powerful Konoha shinobi. Raise your heads, I have a task for you two. You are to shadow the Kumo teams and their Jonin sensei. I want detailed reports of their strengths, dispositions and potential weaknesses by the time the Chunin exams start. These divine bolts threaten Konoha's future supremacy, and I want to look for a way to effectively deal with them. At this point, see if they would be open to the idea of marriage contracts. It seemed like Sasumi was interested in the one named Ruto. I believe you need no further instruction. The two disappeared in various shunins and awaited the arrival of the Kumo teams at the front gates. Hawk, better known as Shisui, decided to keep the conversation lively with Itachi as they waited. You think he knows or suspects anything? My father was never good at containing his rage, so no. I will use this opportunity to ensure that my mother and sister can be saved. If we can find a way out, that would be good too. Itachi replied in a feminine monotone. Are you sure you just don't miss your Naruto-kun? Shisui was always good at pushing Itachi's buttons. Funny, Shisui, very funny. Although I will admit that Naruto would be preferable to that stick in the mud Hyuga that I am engaged to marry. Kami, I pray he doesn't make Chunin. Itachi replied. Weren't Hisashi and Neji offered refuge by Kumo? No, it was determined that they were too high risk. Hitomi and Hanabi did receive the offer though, and after Hitomi meets with Kushina I am sure she will join in the exodus. She was infuriated when the elders branded Hanabi. Hinata is up in the air. Itachi answered Shisui's 20 questions with a slow-growing hint of agitation. Who else? I tried talking to the Nara, but they are too lazy to commit since it all hasn't gone to shit yet. Any further conversation was halted by a massive bird that was landing 200 meters outside the front gates of Konoha. Everyone stopped at what they were doing and gawked at the foreign bird. They noticed 8 shinobi dressed in Kumo gear, all wearing face masks denoting them as divine bolts, approached the gates. Izumo and Kotetsu were known around Konoha by 2 les, the immortal Chunin or the eternal gate guards. On most days, they moan about how boring the duty is while they take turns sleeping on duty. Today was not such a day. First they dealt with the Suna convoy that brought in 4 teams from Suna. The bloodthirsty redhead scared the sleepiness 2 Chunins and scared them bad enough. Now, a massive bird that looks like it could pick up a small house in each talon lands in front of the gates and the Kumo shinobi showed up. Yeesh. For the flashy entrance, the Kumo contingent was fairly quiet as their Jonin sensei processed their entry into Konoha. The 2 gate guards notified them that the Hokage wished to speak with them. Darui took point with his mask on because he knew how tense Shina was to be back in Konoha. Even a mediocre sensor could detect the 10 Anbu guards that were tailing him as they walked to the Hokage tower. Shina kept glancing back at Ruto to make sure he was coping with being back in Konoha, and of course Mabui and Samui had the comforting task covered. Ruto was gritting his teeth under his mask as he took in the once familiar sights of Konoha. Sure, he was young when it all happened, but he had a great memory and he clearly remembered his treatment as a child. It was a lively city, and it was touted as the #1 village. Ruto admitted that it had a much more prevalent civilian presence, and it was lively enough. The Uchiha fans everywhere did rub him the wrong way though. His unease was nothing that repeatedly palming the hilt of his katana couldn't diffuse, and his girls really helped to calm him down too. Eventually, the long walk to the Hokage Tower was completed and now he had to sit through a conversation with the Hokage. The group was allowed to enter the Hokage office shortly after their arrival and Darui once again took point. Greetings, Hokage Dono, thank you for inviting us into your beautiful city to partake in the Chunin exams. We thank you in advance for your hospitality. I am Darui, Jonin Sensei of Team 12 and this is Lady Shina, Jonin Sensei of Team 13. Fugaku looked over the group. Ah, I finally get to meet the divine bolts of Kumo. I have heard much about you. Tell me, would I be imposing too much to ask you to drop your masks? Darui was ready for this and responded coolly. As you said, we have garnered quite the name for ourselves. The masks are to protect our idinis and we are under orders from the Raikage not to remove them in public. We do beg your pardon for this. Fugaku suppressed a snarl and kept his diplomacy face on. Very well, Darui-san, could you tell me if your Raikage would be open to further developing the relationship between our two villages? I have been given limited authority to discuss such things. We intended to maintain the non-aggression pact with Konoha. We have both appreciated the reduced friction on the border. I have been told that any and all treaty talks are welcome for discussion at the Chunin exam finals. Fugaku smiled, which sent a shudder down Shina's spine. Very good, very good. You are that confident that one of your genin will make it to the finals? Daru's posture indicated that he was smirking confidently. Only time will tell, Hokage Dono. Fugaku had to respect Kumo's game. A friendly and diplomatic envoy that truly played the game well. Indeed, Darui-san. Do indulge this old man's curiosity, but could you tell me what kind of summon transported you here? It was the Eagle clan's summons that Kumo recently acquired. That is it, Darui, keep it short, sweet and polite. Most interesting. I have never seen a bird of that nature. Okay, well you have been given 3 rooms at Konoha's prestigious Golden Leaf Hotel for the duration of your stay. In hopes of developing diplomatic ties, Konoha's council has footed the bill. Please enjoy your stay in Konoha and be sure to follow the rules laid out for you. The Chunin exams will commence at the academy 3 days from now. The Kumo contingent swallowed their pride and bowed to the Hokage. They left the tower without another word, or so the Anbu thought. Kushina had installed communication seals on the masks that allowed the DBs to communicate with one another. Of course, it was Tayuya that summarized the meeting with the Hokage. He certainly left me wanting in the communication department. Okay team, we are in mission mode. Remember not to give away any unnecessary information, always stick together and never wander far from public places. We are to remain on the down low for the first part of the exams, so Ruto, for the love of Kami, just don't. Ka-chan. What's that supposed to mean? Samui's giggles echoed through the masks. It means that trouble loves you, Ruto-kun. So, for now, do everything in your power to avoid finding trouble. Why does everybody pick on me? Ruto's fake dejected tone earned a round of laughter. Because you are you, shithead. That should be all the explanation you need. Omoi chimed in, she is right, Ruto-san. What other genin teams get dragged into a war and then immediately follow that up with freeing a nation from a tyrant? That is Ioji's fault. He sent me on those troublesome missions. Somewhere in Konoha, a pineapple-haired boy sneezed on his blonde friend, which earned him a bonk on the head that resulted in him lying on his back and looking at the clouds. The group made their way to the hotel and decided to pack it in for the night. A Fuinjutsu sweep of their hotel suite sent a high-frequency transmission through a total of 9 listening seals and caused 9 root shinobi to suddenly collapse while bleeding from their ears. Protection barriers, privacy barriers and many reinforcement seals were placed upon the hotel rooms. Konoha was not to be trusted, after all. Team 12 and Team 13 decided to bunk with their own teams while the Jonin Sensei shared the room in between. Samui and Mabui instantly remodeled the room by pushing the separate queen beds together. Kushina set up a noise barrier around Omoi's bed to ensure that he got decent sleep and then the whole Kumo contingent passed out after eating a pre-sealed dinner. The next day the Kumo contingent was guided to 2 joint training grounds that they could use for the duration of their stay in Konoha. Once again, Root and ANBU's efforts were foiled by privacy barrier seals that were keyed to only DB members' chakra signatures. Danzo was pulling his hair out at how hard it was to gather intelligence on the Kumo team, but they were enlisted by international law to defend their training ground however the saw fit. The squads did a light workout followed by calisthenics and meditation before they walked into Konoha to find a good breakfast spot. The Kumo teams were walking through Konoha after breakfast, and they bumped into Konoha teams 8 and 10. Kiba opened up with a greeting that caused the 4 squads to stop and greet one another. Hey, it's you guys. Hey, Ino, these are the guys I was telling you about in the wave mission. A pretty, but dainty, looking blonde cast a keen eye over the masked faces of the Kumo shinobi. That's no fun. I wanted to see Mr. Tall, blonde and handsome's face. So, what's with the masks? Ruto shrugged, his massive shoulder muscles rippled under his uniform and caused his slick to slide up just enough to give Ino a glimpse of his abdomen. You get used to them. Plus, they're a great icebreaker. So, what is there to do around here? Ino threw on her best flirt, which caused posturing from Mabui and Samui. Oh, you know, this and that. What do you say to joining us for an early lunch? Thank you for the offer, Ino-san, but we just ate. I suppose we will see you for the Chunin exams. Ruto countered. Kiba puffed out his chest. You bet you will. I have been grinding with a Kamaru here and I think I could show you who the true alpha is now. Kiba-san, it is my duty to inform you as your teammate that should you encounter Ruto-san on the field of battle, your best course of action would be to flee. My Kikaichu are extremely wary of him, and pretty much everyone from Kumo. Shino's monotone nailed the delivery and made everyone laugh. The Hyuga girl with white eyes blushed, touched her pointer fingers together repeatedly and then stammered out. IITW was PP pretty or awesome W what you did for W wave. With an inaudible eep the girl receded into her jacket. Ino aired an eyebrow at Hinata. Damn, Hinata, it has been years since I heard you stutter like that. So, you like Ruto-kun as well. The poor Hyuga girl forgot all of her rigorous past family training as her face invented new and more vibrant shades of red. Ruto decided to have mercy on the poor girl and simply said goodbye on behalf of the Kumo contingent. As they walked away, the Konoha teams resumed their conversation. Troublesome, that big guy is a genin. Team, if we encounter him in any fight, we run. It would be far too troublesome to fight somebody like that. Dude, don't be AP. Sure, he beat Sasuke with no hands, but we haven't been training hard for nothing. Kiba's loud voice managed to reach the receding Kumo teams and made them break out into fits of laughter. Quiet down, dog breath. I don't know about fighting him, but I would love to see more of him. OMG, he was so hot. Ino squealed in a fangirl fashion. Kami, you are such a troublesome woman, Ino. Meanwhile, the Kumo team was walking back to the Golden Leaf Hotel and laughing at the genin. Tayuya and Archoi were going back and forth, throwing comical insults around about the Konoha genin and giving Ruto shit for being the one the girls always lock on to. Samui and Mabui both defended Ruto, saying that it wasn't his fault that Kami and Hikari gave him such a perfect body. Naruto then took a shot at Omoi, saying that it wouldn't be so bad if the other guys in the group pulled their own weight. Everyone was laughing in their masks, externally only a shaking of their shoulders was seen. That is when they noticed 3 teams from what must have been a megacourse, since they were wearing thick rain ponchos and rebreather masks, which weren't really needed in Konoha. Nagato was checking his team into the Golden Leaf when he sensed immensely powerful chakra signatures approaching and he felt like he should recognize one of them. He turned around and locked onto the biggest man in the group. Hell, he was by far the biggest man in the room. Before Nagato could extend a proper greeting to Kumo squads, Amy Hattori, Hanzo's daughter, walked right up to the squads. Even though she was wearing a mask and rebreather that slightly distorted her voice, everyone could tell that she carried a potent femininity. Hey there, I am Amy Hattori and my father told me that I should take some time to get to know you guys. He said that you have left quite the impression on the shinobi world already. Ruto waited for someone to speak, but all 5 of his friends simply looked at him to see how he would address the situation. He sighed internally and aired to Hikari that it always had to be him. Amy Hattori, daughter of the Salamander, it is a pleasure to meet you. I am Ruto Maki, these are Samui, Mabui, Archoi, Tayuya and Omoi. Ruto's gruff voice sent shivers down Amy's spine. Well, these 8 are all members of wandering clans that joined Am. Hinji, Hachi, Grito, Marika, Toto, Sal, Quivy and Sam. Would you guys like to join us for lunch? We actually just ate, but since you asked so nicely, how about we meet down here at 5 p.m. to go grab some dinner? Before that, Ruto-san, how about a trade? I take my mask off if you take yours. Haha, well Amy, my girlfriends don't seem to like that idea. Maybe if you can best me in the Chunin exams though. Oh, aren't you a spoilsport? Well, challenge accepted, and we will see you at 5. After the quick back and forth, the Kumo teams made their way back to Team 12's room and sat inside to catch their breaths and remove their masks. Quote, "It is uncomfortable. If we make one mistake, then the Leaf will use it as an excuse to arrest us. If we get arrested, we will be tortured for information and Kumo will declare war on the Leaf. That will lead." 3 fists impacted the top of Omoi's head. He looked up to see Samui, Tayuya and Mabui glaring at him. "Sorry, I can't help it sometimes." Archoi sat down next to Omoi and threw an arm around his shoulder. "It's alright, my fiery little brother. We still love you. Look guys, we knew we would be walking around with bullseyes on our backs. I am sorry that you are all wearing masks to help me cover up my idini," Naruto said sullenly. Samui and Mabui each took a hand apiece and pulled Naruto onto the bed. "You are worth it, Naruto-kun. We all love you and would do anything for you." "Yeah, my not-so-little shit-headed brother," what she said. Tayuya's smirk covered her entire face. "Thanks, Oni-chan. That means a lot coming from my foul-mouthed older sister who happens to be almost a whole foot shorter than me," Naruto countered sarcastically. Tayuya balled her fist and shook it at Naruto. The group continued to enjoy the opportunity to let the guards down until it was almost time for dinner. They masked up, collected Kushina and Darui, then went to meet the AM teams for dinner. When Nagato walked up, Shina recognized the Uzumaki part of his chakra signature almost immediately. She pulled him into a conference room for 10 minutes and came back out and nodded to Ruto and flashed him hand signs for 50. Seemed like the Uzumaki clan would bring Kumo another strong ally, which meant that Ruto really needed to play nice. Ruto noticed that the AM senseis talked briefly. Ruto saw a widening of the blue-haired female's eyes and a big smile and a slap on the back from the orange-haired one. They walked their squads to the Akamaiki barbecue restaurant, and the group sat down at a big table in the back. Ruto noticed that something was wrong right away. The waiter was nervous, the restaurant staff were nervous, and too many Konoha shinobi walked in after them and sat down. In his mask, he warned his teammates and senseis. Shina then threw up a privacy barrier and instructed the AM team not to eat or drink anything. Shina instructed Ruto to drink some of the water, and sure enough it was tainted with some form of slow-acting chakra-suppressing poison. Not enough to be detectable to most people, but enough that it would slow them down for the next week or so. Needless to say, the massive group stood up and left the restaurant without ordering any food. Naruto opened the communication seal in his mask and spoke out loud. "Let the games begin." After the poisoning attempt, the Kumo group only ate food that they had prepared. Mabui set up an instant transmission seal in their room and sent a letter to Ai requesting that he should send some more food along. The instant transmission was Mabui's fuinjutsu idea for sending items over long distances. She did the theory work, and then Naruto and Kushina helped her round out the fuinjutsu, which became an invaluable asset to Kumo. It allowed for instant transmission between a sending and receiving seal array. Naturally, the receiving seal array was managed by Karui since she was Ai's secretary. When Ai received the message in his office, he broke his desk and punched out the wall that overlooked Kumo. Karui sighed as she sent a request for urgent repairs, again, to the maintenance crew. The group waited for Ai's reply, joking about how Karui was probably nagging him for breaking his desk again. After 10 minutes, a sealing scroll and a letter materialized on the receiving seal. Naruto opened the letter and read it to his friends. He tossed the sealing scroll onto the table, knowing that it probably contained food and water. "Bolts. Gloves off, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Stick it to Konoha and send a message that we will not roll over. I will handle any fallout. If you get the opportunity to, kill Konoha teams quietly. If in sanctioned fight, cripple or kill, whichever hurts Konoha more. It is good to hear about the AM team with the Uzumaki. Try to make friends with Hanzo's daughter. Say hi to Shina for me. The 6 teenagers lay down next to each other on the 3-bed spread and looked up at the ceiling. Anyone that doesn't want to kill, I understand. This is my grudge, not yours. Naruto's voice sounded way softer than normal. Samui and Mabui snuggled up to him to provide reassurance. Archoi thrust a fire-covered fist into the air. Ruto, you are my brother in all but blood, and it is only a matter of time until you're officially family. He paused here to let his perverted tone agitate his sister. We are with you to the end, brother. You may not be dating my sister, although if I had one, I am sure you would be, but I feel the same as Archoi. Omoi's ribbing drew giggles from the others. You know where I stand, shithead. Thanks guys, you are all family to me. Naruto concluded. The group passed out on the bed. When Kushina came in to say lights out, she smiled and resealed the door. Let the kids be kids for a while. The next day they chose to go straight to their training grounds, do more light workouts, stretching and team formation drills, and they retired to their rooms. They didn't feel like dealing with their Konoha watchers or the troublesome genin teams running around the village. They went to bed early after packing up their sealing scrolls in preparation for the exams. That night, Fugaku called Shisui and Itachi to report in. The two appeared kneeling in front of him and Itachi began her report. Kumo teams have remained locked down tight after the incident at the Akamaiki restaurant. The big one, Ruto I believe, drank a single sip of the chakra dampening water before the entire group, and the AM teams left the restaurant without ordering. They do about 4 hours of morning workouts before spending their remaining time in their rooms. The rooms are sealed up tight with multiple layers of protective seals. They destroyed the bugs on the first night and sent the root shinobi listening into the hospital. All indications point to a high level of proficiency with sealing. The teams never talk to each other in public. Aberrane bugs are killed before they can report in, and all attempts to gather further information have been foiled. They are highly trained and extremely dangerous. Ruto is clearly the leader of both teams. I would safely surmise that he is the alpha of the younger generation in Kumo. My Sharingan showed that their uniforms are covered in some sort of chakra suppression seal, which makes it impossible to detect and lock onto his chakra signature. The hair is the only real distinguishing feature aside from his size, which the Jonin sensei and the one named Tayuya share. According to their IDs, they belong to the Maki clan. There is no further information at this time. Fugaku sighed loudly, frustrated by the complete lack of information. They knew about the attempts to weaken them and spy on them, but the senseis haven't filed a complaint, so that says they came ready to deal with the adversity. Do you think direct interference during the second exam would be successful? Fugaku asked with a straight face. Shisui shook his head in the negative. I believe it would have an extremely high chance of backfiring. We have not seen what they are capable of, and if you send assassin teams in, I will find out. I believe the best course of action to be accepting them. Play nice with Kumo, who is rising on the world stage. Secure a new ally rather than provoke them further into becoming an enemy. I agree with Shisui, father. They can detect us when we are following them. They use chakra pulses in regular intervals, and I have not found a way to hide from them. Fugaku slammed a hand on his desk. This is our opportunity to demonstrate the might of Konoha, and you two are telling me that I should accept Kumo upstaging us. The two bowed before Itachi spoke up. Father, I simply believe that the risks do not justify the potential gain. We will likely have a preliminary round. We can find unfavorable matchups or other ways to reduce their chances of making it to the finals. I believe if we try underhanded tactics, they are ready to counter them and turn them against us. Leave me. Return to your posts. Fugaku shouted, and the two disappeared from the room. Danzo appeared out of the shadows in the corner of the room. I reluctantly agree with them. My operatives have come to the same conclusion. I suggest we attempt seduction rather than antagonization. We need to get our hands on their training methods and access to their seals. A marriage treaty would help us secure that. It must be the Maki clan that is the might of Kumo. So, couldn't we kidnap the Maki heir and demand those things in order for his safe return? Danzo scoffed. Fugaku, those are not your typical genin. They confidently marched into enemy territory, and they were ready for our games. The chakra suppression seals have stopped our best sensor shinobi from gathering more information. I wouldn't be surprised if they are each high chunin to jonin level. I will say it again, I agree with Itachi's recommendation. Rather than antagonizing them further and risking international backlash, find a way to take advantage of their strength. Very well, your counsel is well received, Danzo. We will monitor them throughout the exams and find a way to one of the three Makis. Now, what about Suna's Jinchuriki being here? The plans to capture him upon his return to Suna are in place. I have squads that will ambush him in the Land of Rivers, and they will support Deidara. We will have the first Biju after the Chunin exams. That is all well and good, Danzo, but why did Suna send their bloodthirsty Jinchuriki to my Chunin Xmas? To make a statement to their daimyo. We have successfully stolen over half of the missions that would typically go to Suna. They are weak right now and want to use the boy to look strong. Very well. He is to remain on watch for the duration of his stay. That boy's chakra is foul, and he is tainted by his Biju. Fugaku said sternly. As you wish, Fugaku. It will be done. The morning of the Chunin exams, all of the Divine Bolts wore serious looks on their faces as they geared up after their morning stretches. The room was silent aside from the shuffling of gear and metallic clicking of weapons being sealed up. Once everyone was ready, they stood in front of Darui and Kushina for inspection. The two Jonin ninjas walked through and double-checked equipment loads, pulling on straps and scroll pouches to make sure they were properly secured. Then, Kushina addressed them. Okay guys, this is it. This is what we pushed you so hard in your training for. For any combat phase, you will fight without your seals active. Naruto, Sochi, you may keep a couple active to prevent displaying too much. Reikage-sama ordered you to display the minimal amount of skill necessary to win. Unless it is a life or death situation, you are not to use your lightning armor, storm chains or storm release. Everyone else, when you are being watched, try to do the same. Do not lose because you were holding back, but do not be show-offs. This is a mission, and it starts now. Mask up. The Genin secured their face masks and tested the communication seals. Once everything checked out, Ruto nodded to Shina. The deadly and intimidating teams of Genin moved out for the academy. They exited the hotel at 10:30 and the exams didn't start until noon. They moved as a single unit toward the academy and drew many stares as they walked through the streets. Many civilians pointed at Ruto, saying that there was no way he was a Genin child. To be fair to them, the average fully grown male was slightly taller than 5 feet 7 inches, which Naruto dwarfed by 7 or 8 inches. Shina and Darui left the teams in twin shunshuns at the academy gates. Ruto looked at the academy building and the various Genin teams milling about and promptly ignored them. The six walked up the stairs, straight past a miserably easy genjutsu and into the exam room, room 301. They were among the first people to show up, except for a Suna team that was leaning against the far wall. Ruto nodded to the admittedly pretty blonde Sand Kunoiki before his team took seats in the back of the room. Naruto-kun, that red-headed child holds Shukaku, the one-tailed tanuki. That sand rat was always a bit crazy, but I get the feeling that the seal has either fallen apart or it was poorly made to begin with. Hikari said with a warning tone through the mental link. Thanks for letting me know, Hikari-chan. I was wondering what was up with so much passive bloodlust. Should I say something? Well, the kid hasn't stopped staring at you since you walked in, so might as well see what my crazy little Biju brother is up to. Ruto let his team know about Hikari's update before the six of them walked over to the sand team. Gaara's eyes remained fixed on Ruto, but Ruto shook off the glare and focused on Temari. Hey, Kunoiki-chan, can you tell the little tanuki to reel in the bloodlust? We haven't done anything to offend him, as far as we know. Ruto used a flirtatious tone in his voice. Temari's eyes widened and obscured the blush that dusted her cheeks. How did you know? Kumo is very familiar with Biju and their hosts. Now, Ichibi Jinchuriki, I recommend you stop glaring at me because I have come in peace with an offer for you. Mother wants your blood, but I will hear your offer. Gaara's tone was dead and menacing. How would you like to get some sleep? Based on those rings around your eyes, I am willing to bet that Shukaku keeps you up at night. Ruto held up a hand to halt their responses. I am offering to alter your seal and separate you from Shukaku's direct influence. All I want in return is good relations with Suna, not even an official treaty. Gaara's eyes widened and there was a momentary lull in Gaara's bloodlust. You could let me sleep. Ruto nodded. In return, I don't kill you or Kumo Shinobi. That will be a start. I don't need an answer now, just think about it. I will approach you again later in the exams. Temari-chan and Kankuro-san, it was an honor to meet the Kazekige's children. Good luck. Ruto turned on his heel and led his group back to their seats. The internal conversation was hilarious as they poked fun at the looks of the Suna team's faces. It became even funnier as Ruto and Archoi provided a play-by-play of each genin team that walked in. Archoi bet Ruto that he couldn't make a genin team fall when they walked through the door, and Ruto gleefully accepted the challenge. That was when Team 7 walked into the room. Sasumi was extremely agitated after her brother's display. First, he informs weakling genin teams that there was a genjutsu. Then, he gets his handed to him by a kid with a bowl cut and caterpillar eyebrows, and now he was sulking. Then she had to deal with her perverted sensei and Sakura's shrill voice. She just wanted to sit down. She pushed open the door to room 301 and tripped over her feet as a massive amount of killing intent caught her off guard and forced her, Sasuke and Sakura, to their knees. Then, Sakura passed out and pissed her pants. Every genin team looked at them and laughed, and Sasumi just wanted to disappear. The key let up and the giant-looking Ruto offered her a hand up, which she accepted. Thank you, Ruto-san. It has been a while, how have you been? Her tone was soft and fragile after experiencing that level of ki for the second time. The first time was against Zabuza. Very well, Sasumi-san, thanks for asking. He looked at the downed forms of Sasuke and Sakura. Did she bring a change of clothes? She is going to need it. Sasumi buried her face in her hands in embarrassment. I doubt it, Ruto-san, I doubt it. Ruto walked away with his back shaking. The inside comms on the mask were completely filled with laughter. Quote, Tayuya-chan, why has your cussing habit gotten worse over time instead of better? Mabui asked. Quote, that's enough, Tayuya. Don't cross that line again. Ruto's stern tone halted the snickering. Tayuya's head dipped slightly before she apologized to Mabui. The group then heard the shrill squeal of Ino as she attempted to glom onto Sasuke's back. This started a fight between the pissy Pinky and Blondie until the dog boy came in and pointed at Sakura's crotch while laughing. The Pinky blushed before becoming enraged, and she chased the laughing Kiba around the room. As a whole, the genin of Konoha were complete and unprofessional amateurs. Then something interesting happened after a silver-haired boy approached the group. He bragged about having information on every genin in the exams, and that is when Ruto heard his name. I want information on Rock Lee, Gaara of the Sand, and Ruto from Kumo. Sasuke said in a demanding tone. For some reason, the Kabuto guy smiled and began to cough up information on Rock Lee and Gaara. This set flags off in his mind, but Omoi beat him to it when he said, spy, through the comms channel. He decided that he would like to see what kind of information they were able to get out of Kumo, since he already had a massive target on his back. Eventually, it was his turn. Finally, we have Ruto Maki, youngest known son of the Maki clan. He is Jonin level in Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, Fuinjutsu, and no information on Genjutsu. He is named one of the 6 divine bolts of Kumo. Rumors say his team helped to end the civil war in Kiri and they liberated Wave. Those are the only 2 missions I am aware of. At that moment, a massive hand snatched the card out of Kabuto's hand, which greatly surprised him because he didn't sense Ruto coming at all. Ruto held Kabuto's shoulder firmly and leaned into his ear. So, you listen to some rumors. Tell me, Kabuto, who told you that I have Jonin level Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, and Ninjutsu? You see, I was going to let your little show play out, but you have piqued my interest. You want to know what I think, little snake spy, is that if you are going to share my secrets, then I will share yours. Kabuto held his hands up in a disarming gesture. He was panicking and hoping that nobody heard what Ruto said. I didn't mean to offend, Ruto-san. There is no need for threats. Ruto snatched the card and used wind chakra to slice the card up into 100 pieces and then dumped said pieces in Kabuto's hand before patting him on the shoulder. I am glad we came to a mutual understanding. Sasuke screamed. What? The almighty Ruto doesn't want people knowing that he is a fake. What right do you have to deny an Uchiha in our home village? Ruto looked over his shoulder as he walked back to his seat. Shut your mouth, pretty boy. Or should I share the story of our so-called spar with the class? Sasuke shut up, but Sakura didn't. Don't you dare talk to Sasuke-kun like that. He is a noble and your peasant mother. Sakura fell to her knees again and nearly passed out again due to the ki being directed at her from the whole Kumo contingent. The whole room froze and waited for Ruto's response. It didn't take long. The overwhelming killing intent was emphasized by the growl barely hidden under Ruto's tone. Look here, pissy Pinky, say anything about my mother again and I will end your miserable life without a second thought. Multiple puffs of smoke at the front of the classroom drew everyone's attention of a blonde man with scars poking out from under his hishiate. Enough of that, maggots. Any non-sanctioned combat will result in expulsion from the exams. Now take your seats. A burst of ki had genin scurrying around to find their proper seats. Here are the rules for this exam. You are not allowed to ask me questions. 10 questions apiece, you lose 1 point for each question you miss. If you are caught cheating, you lose 2 points. Any team with a team member that scores 0 will be disqualified. Any team that scores below 6 points total will be disqualified. Are there any questions? Abiki pointed to an older genin with brown hair and cut his question off midway through. You and your team is disqualified. Leave my room this instant. For the rest of you, your time starts now. Ruto and his team breezed through the questions thanks in large part to Mabui. They were able to converse freely in their masks and every Kumo genin was finished within the first 10 minutes. Ruto leaned back and kicked his feet up on the desk with his hands resting behind his head. The female population of the room was having a hard time focusing on anything other than his biceps, since Ruto decided to wear a short-sleeve combat shirt under his black slick vest. His pheromones in a sealed room were really starting to have an effect on the female population of the room as Ruto noticed beads of sweat, shuffling, legs squeezing tight together, gasping breaths and other signs of female stimulation. Abiki was getting immensely frustrated by the Kumo team. Most of them were napping and the Ruto kid had everyone looking at him. Even some of his female chunin were caught ogling the male genin. Furthermore, he couldn't determine how the masked genin cheated, not even a single hint. He decided to knock the kid down a peg in order to intimidate the class. He walked over to Ruto and slapped one of his boots hard to wake him up. Can I help you, Abiki-san? He asked calmly. Abiki scowled and picked up the test. All 9 questions answered perfectly with no calculations or anything to be seen. He slapped the paper down on Ruto's desk and growled. No sleeping in my classroom, brat. Oh. But Abiki-san, I wasn't sleeping. I was meditating and watching these wannabe shinobi cheat. I mean, mirrors on the ceiling, communicating with pet familiars, dojutsu active without a genjutsu shield and a sand eye. Oh. Okay, that one is kinda cool. Abiki glanced around and noticed all the cheating methods mentioned and stomped back up to the front of the room. That infuriating brat ruined the atmosphere he worked hard to create. Hikari chuckled merrily through the mental link. Well, don't you make fast friends? Meh, no biggie. He is just mad I am ruining his mental games. Hikari sent a devious smirk through the mental link. Well, why don't we play our own games? Ruto remained in a reclined position with his feet kicked up as the room filled with puffs of smoke. When the smoke cleared, there were hundreds of copies of the chunin proctors, each one holding a test sheet in their hands. Then another puff of smoke showed 40 copies of Abiki Morino screaming at the clone proctors, who proceeded to freak out and throw the test sheets in the air. Before Abiki could even react, all clones dispelled, leaving a gobsmacked classroom. Abiki scowled and began shouting orders to the exam proctors, who collected all of the papers and put them back on the assigned desks. Abiki scowled as he imagined the smirk under Ruto's mask as he somehow knew the genin was laughing at him. The rest of the test went without incident, except for the fact that nearly 50 teams remained. Abiki got ready for his final push. Okay, it is time for the 10th question. Choose not to answer it and your team gets to leave with no further repercussions. Answer it and guess wrong and you and your team will be barred from taking the chunin exams ever again. Doomed to wander the elemental nations stuck as a genin. You have 5 minutes to decide if you want to take the question. Shouts of outrage lanced throughout the room while the Kumo genin begged Ruto not to draw any more attention. So, Ruto remained relaxed with his feet kicked up on his desk. A couple genin teams chose to leave the room voluntarily and Abiki's last push was moderately successful. Unfortunately, He had 4 times more teams than usual that would proceed to the second phase. This left Ibiki feeling completely defeated as the proctor for the second phase walked in. An Anbu with beautiful purple hair walked into the exam room and froze before she turned to look at Ibiki. She saw how dejected he looked and decided not to kick a dead horse. She turned to address the genin. Alright, I am Yuzuki Yugao and I will be your proctor for the second phase of the Chunin exams. You have 1 hour to prepare for a 5-day camping trip inside Training Ground 44, lovingly referred to by Konoha residents as the Forest of Death. Anybody who is late will be disqualified. The noise of clattering chairs and scuffling feet filled the room until the 6 DBs remained in the room. Before Yugao or Ibiki could say anything to them, they disappeared in various forms of the Shunshin. Watch out for that team, Yugao. That Naruto brat is good. He completely ruined my mind game and I have no idea how. Ibiki's voice sounded hollow, completely lacking the menace associated with the number 1 interrogator of Konoha. Shake it off, Ibiki. You shouldn't have tried to target the kid. I am sure you understand now how strong he is. Yeah, go have your fun in the forest. Ibiki shooed her off before resting his aching head on his desk. The 1-hour time limit was up and genin teams were talking amongst themselves in front of a stage set up at the entrance to the training grounds. Behind the stage, a measly chain-linked fence acted as a barrier between the dense, dangerous forest and the rest of Konoha. Yugao took the stage accompanied by some Chunin proctors. Okay, for those of you that made it here on time. We will be having a scroll battle in the forest for the next 5 days. Your team will turn in these waivers in exchange for 1 of 2 scrolls. The waivers clear us of any liability in the likely event of your deaths. 1 heaven scroll and 1 earth scroll will be required to grant you entry into the tower. If you open the scrolls prematurely, you are disqualified. If a teammate dies before you make it to the tower, your team is disqualified. If you do not make it to the tower before 8 AM on the 5th day, you are disqualified. If you leave the Forest of Death for any reason, you are disqualified. Any questions? A plump boy in a red battle outfit with the kanji for food raised his hand. Proctor-san, what will we do for food? Yugao grunted. Scavenge or hunt? Figure it out. You are supposed to be a shinobi. Okay, fill out your waivers and turn them in at the tent over there for your gate assignment. She said dismissively. Naruto and the team were scanning the genin participants and getting a feel for which teams they would attack. Naruto had the idea to use his sonar abilities to pick out teams and reduce the Compyon, specifically the Leaf Compyon. His mother had given him a couple people that she wanted spared, but the rest were fair game. As he was scanning the crowd, he noticed Amy wave to him, and he returned the gesture with a nod. She was interesting to Naruto, he wouldn't go out of his way to flirt or anything, but if Hikari, Samui and Mabui were okay with it, then he wouldn't offer much resistance to the idea. Hey, it's not his fault that his mother is placing the responsibility of restoring his clan on him. Eventually, his team turned in their waivers and noticed that the gate position was on the far side of the forest compared to Team 13's. That cued Naruto in that this was planned, and he gave extra orders before Team 13 took off. Alright guys, they are either splitting us up or it is a coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences, especially when Konoha is involved. Team 13, you will meet up with us at this point, designated A1, no later than sundown. You will each take a transformed shadow clone in case something goes wrong. No, Tayuya, I am not saying you aren't strong enough, it is just a precaution. I will ping my chakra 3 times before we enter the campsite. Any questions? Tayuya's voice came through the receiving seals near his ears. Are you sure we can't kill the emo prince? Not even a little bit. Mabui answered. Lady Sheena wants us to spare him for the sake of her old friend. Rough him up, but no killing or maiming. Alright, seals down everybody. Any root or Anbu presence and you go all out to break contact and regroup with us. I love you all, be safe. Ruto's genuine tone earned smiles from all of his friends. Archoi initially found it awkward when Naruto told him he loved him, but it didn't take long for the blonde to add that it was brotherly love. The group split off to Gate 12 and Gate 42. The Forest of Death was a 100 square kilometer forest that had 44 gates that provided entry. According to Anko, Ruto's group got one of the hardest gates to enter through. They would likely be dealing with some of the more dangerous denizens of the forest, so Ruto carried his greatsword in his right hand. He glowed blue as he released his seals and shook out his limbs. The Chunin proctor by the gate eyed the group with a little more interest than was appropriate, so Ruto aired his head at the man. Proctor-san, if you keep looking at my teammates like that, I will use this sword here to put an end to your lechery. The Chunin looked nervous at the threat and the key that this supposed genin was hitting him with. He felt the difference after the kid's seals were released and knew that the forest would never be enough to deal with this team. Why yes, KKK Kumo-san. 5 minutes later a horn sounded and the Chunin proctor opened the gates. The team walked through the entrance and out of sight of the proctor before Ruto conducted 3 full-powered pings. To the sensor shinobi station nearby, they all instantly got headaches. To the Root Hyuga branch members, they were temporarily blinded. Their orders were to observe, but they were in so much pain that even their emotional control failed them. Ruto sensed them and immediately dashed to confront them while leaving a clone with his team. Ruto scowled and let the sound escape his mask. It was a deep, terrifying and menacing sound. Root-san, according to international law, interference during the Chunin exams is considered an act of war. So, I will ask this to you once. Do you want war? Ruto escalated his ki and gripped his greatsword menacingly. The Root captain responded. No, Ruto-san. I assure you we were only here to spectate. Quote. The Root shinobi made a hand signal and there were multiple blurs heading for the forest edge. Ruto took 2 minutes to scribble a note to his mother before summoning a smaller eagle and giving the scroll to it. The eagle accepted a piece of jerky and took off to complete its task. Ruto pinged his chakra several times again and knew that at least this part of the forest was clear. He shunshined back down to his team and explained what just happened. Not cool, this village has no sense of honor. Samui's cool voice made Ruto smile. Not surprising considering the leadership. The best thing your mother ever did was removing you from this taint. Mabui added to the charges. Thanks girls, weapons out. My pings seem to have pissed off some of the 8-legged freaks that Anko told us about. The squad drew their weapons and looked up into the trees to see nearly 50 spiders that were the size of large dogs. They had furry legs and 2 elongated pincers that were dripping with a greenish-purple venom. Ruto created 20 shadow clones and the bloodbath began. Unfortunately, the blood was the same greenish-purple color of the spiders' venom, and it smelled rancid. After the initial fighting ceased, Ruto darted off toward their rendezvous point with Samui and Mabui on his heels. The clones in diamond formation protected their flanks as they moved. They were forced to deal with another 100 spiders by the time they were out of the spider's domain. Ruto directed the team to a stream to get the spider blood and guts off of their super cool, very nice and new uniforms. The group sustained minimal injuries, but it was a very unpleasant 30 minutes in the forest of death thus far. After using wind jutsu to dry everyone off, Ruto ran to the top of the tallest tree. Samui and Mabui continued to clean off their swords and uniforms as they felt each chakra ping wash over them. It was a truly reassuring feeling to them. A minute later, Ruto dropped to the forest floor and created 30 clones. 2/3 of the clones used transformations to turn into replicas of Samui and Mabui. Ruto pulled out his map and assigned target areas for each clone squad to patrol and conducted ambushes. They were him, so they didn't need to be told which genin were protected. The clone squads were to remain active until morning and bring any scrolls collected to the rendezvous point. He then pointed to an area and spoke. Okay, the closest team to us is right here. Don't know who it is, but they shouldn't be much of a problem. We will eliminate them and take their scroll. Love you both. He blew air K to each of them before rolling up the map and moving out. The group darted through the trees in blurs of motion. Once they were in the target area, Ruto conducted some weaker pulses to locate the team. There was a Konoha team with Snake Boy talking to a team from Oto. Oh, happy days. Okay, ladies, there is Snake Boy, and I don't really like him. I don't care if he is Orochimaru's subordinate. I will take the Leaf team and you two will take the Oto team. Sound good. You got it, Bo. How will we open up? Samui asked. Mabui answered that excitedly. I want to use the flash tags I made. I cranked up the potency and I want to see how well they work. Ruto chuckled at that. Mabui had a genuine interest in Fuinjutsu, even if she didn't learn as quickly as Ruto did. Very well. Once I get to the far side of the clearing, let them loose. Detonate them high up to cover the most area. Kabuto was meeting with the Oto team to give them their orders. Lord Orochimaru wanted them to test Sasuke and Sasumi. Lord Orochimaru planned on marking them both with the cursed seal of heaven. His main target was Sork, but he wanted Sasumi as a backup. Kabuto had felt the chakra pulses, but he assumed they belonged to some amateur sensor, and he was confident in his ability to take on any genin in this exam. He was at Jonin level after all. Everything was going well, and the Oto team was ready to move out when the group heard a couple kunai sailing overhead. As they looked up, their whole worlds turned white. Kabuto focused on healing the damage to his eyes, but he heard the surprised screams of his teammates and the Oto squad. He felt the chakra surges that surrounded him and listened as steel met flesh and blood. It only took him 10 seconds to heal the damage to his eyes, but his whole plan had collapsed in that time. When Kabuto opened his eyes, it took his brain a second to process what he was seeing. The Kumo team was in front of him, his two Konoha teammates were bisected and the big guy, Ruto, was holding his greatsword in one hand while it glowed with lightning chakra. Behind him, Dosu was decapitated and both of Zaku's arms were cut off and a lightning-covered katana was protruding from his back. Kin had crumpled to the ground, frozen in fear. Kabuto tried to shake off the unfamiliar feeling of fear that was welling up inside him and he forcibly calmed his voice before he spoke. Can I help you, Ruto-san? Just wondering if I am dealing with a Konoha shinobi or a spy for Orochimaru. Depending on your answer, I may let you live. A smile appeared on Kabuto's face. Well, aren't you perceptive? Yes, I serve Lord Orochimaru as his second in command. Okay then, Kabuto-san, we will let you live if you tell us what you know of the snake's intentions for Kumo. We have had to deal with a number of incursions from him over the past couple years. Kabuto thought about it for the moment. He wasn't confident in his chances of taking on these three, not anymore. The same as everywhere else, he wants to understand what has led to Kumo's rapid rise in power. He is interested in the Fuinjutsu and training programs mostly. You will deliver a message to the snake for me. Kumo is off limits henceforth. We will not get in your way for the invasion, but we will not help. Out of curiosity, why did you tell that team to attack Team 7? Kabuto was cautious in his answer. Lord Orochimaru is interested in the Sharingan, and he wanted to test Team 7. Ruto thought about that for a bit. Okay, final message and I do hope you make it in time. Sasumi Uchiha is off limits. If he does not honor that, Lady Shina will get involved. To warn the snake, Kabuto-san. My mother is a truly terrifying woman when she is wronged. Oh, and leave us your scroll, pretty please. Kabuto stored that bit of information for consideration at a later date. He dropped the scroll and left. He didn't need to be told twice. He needed to find Lord Orochimaru and inform him of these developments. Kabuto shuddered ferociously as he remembered the feeling of the blonde's chakra, the strength of his tone and the feeling of true fear unlike any he had ever felt. He was elite Jonin level and he folded like a leaf to a fresh genin. What's worse, is he knew that it was the right decision to make. Back with Team 12, Samui and Mabui were standing over a bound kunoiki. The kunoiki had broken out of her shock once her vision came back, but panic set in when she realized she was bound with no hope of escape. The aura she felt earlier was gone and now 3 of the ninjas she was told to steer clear of were looking down on her while having a silent conversation about her fate. After a minute, Mabui knelt down in front of her to begin questioning her. Okay sweetie, here is how this is going to go. I am going to ask a question and you are going to answer it honestly. This here is a lie detection seal. If you lie it will glow red and we kill you. First question, what connection do you have to Orochimaru? He is the cage of Otogakure. We were sent on a mission to compete in the Chunin exams, and we were supposed to kill Sasuke and Sasumi Uchiha. Okay. Next, where is Otogakure? The land of rice paddies. It is an underground village. Why are you giving us this information? Because I hate it in Oto, and I hate Orochimaru. Why? Because that man took me from my village after his goons raided it. Now to mention, women are treated like absolute dirt in Oto. It is a miracle that I haven't been raped yet and that was only because of one friend I had there. The village's ranks are full of missing nin and they are not the best people to hang around. What will you do if we let you go? Kin's head sunk and her chin met her chest. I don't know. Mabui stood up and another silent conversation began. Mabui led it. Ruto, I don't have the heart to kill this girl. We are not cold-blooded killers and she got swept up in something that she couldn't take back. I agree with Mabui. It is not cool. But what could we do with her? Silence was all they got out of Ruto. He was lost deep in thought, thinking about the risks to letting her go and wondering why Orochimaru seemed to be fascinated with Sasuke and Sasumi. If he wanted the Sharingan, why would he send this team to kill them? So that Sasuke would kill them. A poke in the side from Samui snapped him back to attention. He walked in front of the girl and spoke. All right, sweetheart, here are your options. 1. I put you in a prisoner scroll and hand you over to our people after a nice long stay. 2. I put you in a stasis scroll and we have a long talk back at our hotel. 3. I kill you here and be done with it. Please choose. Kin shivered at her options, but there was really only one option. Number 2 please. If I check out, see can I go back to Kumo W with you? Ruto put a hand to his mask in a thinking pose. Honestly, not my call. I would say that it is possible, but we cannot let you get in the way of our mission here. That being said, we are not murderers. At worst, you will have your memory modified after we find a place for you. At best, you join Kumo and get to enjoy the good life after some retraining and re-education. I see, I still choose option 2 please. Kin pleaded. Okay, sweetheart, I am going to put you to sleep and then you will be in the stasis scroll until I find time to release you. If you wake up in there, the important thing to remember is not to panic. Kin's eyes widened as she processed what he said before a seal was placed on her forehead and the world went black. Ruto then sealed the unconscious Kunoichi in a stasis scroll and sealed said scroll into his arm. He stood back up and noticed that the girls were standing with their hands on their hips and looking at him. What? That was mean, Ruto. You scared the poor girl half to death. You know people won't wake up in stasis scrolls if they were put in them while unconscious. Mabui chided strictly. Ruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Mare, it was all in good fun. Okay, we have wasted enough time here. Strip these guys of anything useful and burn the bodies. We will head to the rendezvous point. With Team 13 at the beginning of the second phase. Team 13 tore off through the gates and Omoi was using his limited sensing techniques to guide the team. She had instructed him on how to spread out his chakra, but his range was only 100 meters. Archoi was taking point with Tayuya on the back left and Omoi on the back right. They made their way into the trees and thanked Shina Sensei for the training in wooded terrain. Team 13 had taken a cut-off route for the team entering through Gate 11. They had marked that team on the way to their own gate as the team from Taki. They each wanted to test themselves in combat situations and Taki was not on the list of protected people. It took them 5 minutes to cut the team off and the team was walking through the forest on ground level. Team 13 stopped on a tree branch 50 meters away from them and Omoi sensed for any deception. The one on the left is a bunchen of some sort. The actual shinobi is 40 meters back in a counter-ambush position. Tayuya, genjutsu if you please. Archoi, take out the two once she has them trapped. I will handle the one to the rear. Kill or capture? Tayuya asked. Capture and make sure they cannot proceed. I don't see a reason to kill these guys. If it were a Konoha team, it would be different. Before they moved, the Taki team was hit by a Konoha team that must have come from the gate to the other side of the team. Team 13 watched as a pitched battle ensued and the bunchen was dispelled. The ninja that was in the counter-ambush position hit the Konoha team from a flank and they were all locked in battle. Okay, change of plans. Tayuya, false imprisonment jutsu, block and confuse their senses. Tayuya immediately began weaving hand signs. Archoi, bring the heat when I bring the lightning. After impact, we move in close range. Omoi ordered quickly as he processed the situation. Tayuya finished her hand signs on her area genjutsu, and the battle seemed to fall into a momentary lull. Then a massive fireball headed toward the two ninja teams that was flanked on both sides by streams of lightning. The fire and lightning jutsu impacted the ninjas that were relatively close together. 4 shinobi, 2 from each team, were killed by the jutsus and the 2 remaining shinobi were still trying to regain their bearings as Archoi fell from the tree. The Taki shinobi called a temporary truce with the Konoha genin and the two turned to face Omoi and Archoi that had just landed in front of them. The two remaining genin took battle-ready stances and were prepared to charge when twin wakizashis penetrated the base of their necks and exited through the vocal cords. The blades retracted quickly, and the bodies collapsed to the forest floor. Unlucky bastards. Tayuya, I really wanted a chance for a blazing hot sword fight. Archoi complained. Okay, I will be sure to let Ruto know you are itching for a kenjutsu battle. I am sure he would oblige you. Tayuya shot back, which shut Archoi up. Archoi may be hot-blooded, but he had yet to best Naruto in a kenjutsu spar. He at least stood a chance when it came to taijutsu. If you tell Ruto that, then Archoi will be so banged up for the next phase of the exams then we would fail our follow-on mission, which could lead. Archoi casually bonked Omoi on the head and ended his rant. That's enough, Omoi. Let's find their scrolls and head to the rendezvous point. Tayuya was already picking through the bodies and throwing anything of value in a pile. Archoi joined her and picked up one heaven and one earth scroll to accompany their earth scroll. Omoi jumped back into the trees and remained on lookout. After 5 minutes, Tayuya had her pile of loot sealed up and they were on the move again. Ruto Clone Squad 3 was flying through the forest and heading to their designated area. They had passed through the center of the forest, and they were around the point where they would expect to encounter enemy teams. The lead clone used a chakra ping and sensed a lone shinobi that was just over 100 meters away. With a hand signal, the clone group took off and came to rest on a tree branch that was overlooking an unusual scene. Karen hated her life in Kusa, and she hated her now dead teammates. They stumbled across a massive bear and were dumb enough to try and kill it with a fire jutsu. The surprisingly fast beast ripped her teammates apart and was closing in on her. She had hurt her ankle during her panicked sprint away from the crazed bear and tripped over a large root. Karen had two blessings in life, her potent healing chakra and her chakra sensory ability. Thus, when she felt 3 chakra signatures, she screamed. She cried out and begged for help as the massive bear was closing in on her with fresh blood dripping from its claws and jaws. Clone Squad 3 looked at one another and sighed. Their boss always did have a soft spot for damsels in distress. They jumped down and intercepted the giant bear. All at once, they cast Futon, Air Cutter. 3 blades of condensed air chakra ripped into the charging bear's legs and torso. Its front legs were severed, and the bear fell in a heap. The clone that looked like his creator jumped up and landed on the bear with a downward thrust of its greatsword into the bear's heart. The massive creature let out one last, raspy breath before it went wherever animals go when they die. The Ruto clone hopped down off the bear and asked the kunoiki if she had any sealing supplies. A very confused Karen handed over a sealing scroll. The clone sighed because the scroll wasn't big enough to fit the bear. After scratching his head, the clone's finger glowed with blue chakra as it altered the seal on the scroll. With a triumphant hand gesture, the clone placed the scroll under the giant bear and sealed it away. All 3 clones then turned to Karen before the big one spoke. Heya, I am Ruto Maki, what's your name? The clone's voice would have been considered disarming if it weren't coming from such a big man. Karen was confused and slightly terrified. These shinobi just took down the creature that killed her teammates with ease and then treated it like some trophy. She sighed internally, resigning herself to whatever fate had in store. Karen Uzumaki. Karen watched as the clone stumbled back as if that was some sort of massive revelation. Then, all of a sudden, the 3 clones all became the big guy. The clone that was talking to her removed his mask and beautiful azure blue eyes looked at her with love. Well then, maybe I should reintroduce myself. I am Naruto Uzumaki, or at least a shadow clone of him. Change of plans, boys, we are taking Karen here to meet the boss. That is, if you want to meet a long-lost family member. Karen nodded, blown away by the revelation. How are you blonde? I thought all Uzumakis were redheaded. Blame the boss dad for that one. Long story, there is time to catch up later. Do you have your team's scroll, or do we need to search your teammates? The one on the left has it. Where are we going to meet your boss? Karen asked. In the forest about 2 clicks west, northwest of here. Oh, and Karen, do not, under any circumstances, call me by my real name in public. Please call me Rutomaki for our time in these exams. No Uzumaki, Especially not in Konoha territory. Clear. Karen nodded sheepishly. Crystal. Are you going to get up? I sprained my ankle. She said, slightly embarrassed. The clone's hand glowed with a green healing light and some of the pain went away before the clone scratched the back of its neck in a nervous fashion. Sorry, Karen-chan. I was never much of a healer. Climb on and I will get you to the boss. The clone readorned its chakra mask and allowed Karen to climb on its back as it set out for the rendezvous point. Clone Team 7 was heading to their designated sector when they sensed a massive surge of chakra. They jumped off to see what was going on and took positions high up in the tree branches. There, they watched as the snake Sanin bit into Sasuke Uchiha's neck while the pink-haired banshee wailed. The snake glanced at the clones before it skittered away after biting Sasuke and telling the boy to find him if he wanted true power. The clones noticed that Sasumi was knocked unconscious, and the clone squad jumped down to the pink-haired girl. Sakura panicked when the Kumo squad appeared in front of her. She knew she couldn't do anything against them, so instead she got on her knees and prostrated herself before them. With her massive forehead touching the ground, she implored them. Please help me. Please. That Kusa ninja named Orochimaru hurt Sasumi and bit Sasuke. I don't know what to do. She began crying as she spoke. The clones sighed. If this team didn't have Sasumi on it, they could simply kill them and be done with it. Boss Mom will owe us one after this, was the thought shared by all the clones. Okay, relax. It was Sakura, right? The pink-haired Kunoiki looked up and nodded. Alright, then calm down. We are going to take you to the boss, and he will get this sorted out. Boss. Yeah, we are just clones. Speaking of, one of you dispel to let the boss know what's going on. Somewhere in the forest, Ruto got hit by a surge of memories and he sighed, knowing he wasn't going to like this. He created a clone and dispelled it to give his confirmation that it was okay to bring the team and his team. Back with Team 7, the clone created another clone and each clone grabbed one member of Konoha Team 7. Sakura attempted to protest but was promptly silenced when the Ruto clone told her that she was way too slow. Thus, another group was making its way toward the rendezvous point near the center of the forest. Ruto and Team 12 were the first to arrive at the rendezvous point. They began setting up the perimeter seals, alarm seals and a basic barrier seal. They then set their tent up underneath the roots of a big tree. Ruto was grateful that Mabui was able to develop a secondary affinity to Earth Chakra. It was something that he found nearly impossible to do and Samui wasn't much better at it. 3 hours after the exam started, the campsite at the rendezvous point was completely set up and ready to receive the extra visitors. Team 13 arrived shortly after the campsite was completed. They pulsed their chakra to let their teammates know they were there. At the same time, a clone squad returned carrying a red-headed girl. Ruto dropped the barrier and allowed them entry. Team 13 got their tent set up and Karen went underground to get settled in. An hour after Team 13, Clone Squad 7 dropped off the Konoha team with 2 of its members still incapacitated. They were taken to a separate tree where Mabui healed Sasumi and provided what relief she could to Sasuke. Sakura buzzed around her like a worried mother hen until she was done before she focused all her attention on the feverish Sasuke. For his team's safety, Ruto locked Konoha Team 7 in a prison barrier for the night after telling Sakura that they were not allowed to leave the tree. Underneath the tree at the rendezvous point, the Kumo contingent was having a heated conversation. Ruto, I understand not targeting them, but this is too much. You brought them to our campsite for Kami's sake. Mabui said. She is right, I got nothing against Sasumi, but those other 2 are nothing but trouble. Tayuya added. Look, girls, they couldn't help that they got attacked by the snake. We already took care of the follow-up surprise the snake team had prepared for them. Let them rest for tonight and we will be out of here before they even wake up. Fine, but I am not watching them. Tayuya said with her arms crossed. She then looked at Karen. You know, for a supposedly nearly extinct clan, you sure find a lot of Uzumaki women, little brother. First me, then Rias and now this one. Karen looked at her with wide eyes. There are more of us. Why are you with Kumo though? Isn't that one of the villages that attacked Azu? Ruto sighed. Look, Karen, war is war. The current rakeage took us in and treats us like family. He is helping my mom rebuild Azu and even signed a lifelong blood contract with my mom. If that isn't trustworthy enough for you, I don't know what is. Oh, okay then. So, can I go back to Kumo with you? Karen asked, properly cowled. The group looked at each other and had some sort of silent conversation for a couple minutes. Eventually, Ruto sighed before speaking. Karen-chan, we would never leave family behind. That being said, you are a foreign kunoichi and we can't just walk you out of the village and tell Kusa to go F themselves. Oh, by the way, do you have that sealing scroll with the bear in it? That pelt will sell for some good money and that meat will be good jerky. Karen looked confused as she pulled out the scroll and handed it over. Sorry for getting distracted. The reason I am nervous is because you are not going to like my plan, but I need you to trust me. Before we leave this campsite, I need to put you in a stasis scroll so that nobody knows we have you. Then we will find a way to sneak you back to Kumo. You can dye your hair in the new hair color of the Maki family. Karen looked very nervous now. Will it hurt? No. You will be asleep the whole time until I remove the sleep seal from you. You won't feel a thing. Naruto answered with ample amounts of compassion. Fine then. If it gets me out of Kusa, I will do it. Do you have anything left in Kusa that you need? Ruto asked softly. Karen shook her head sadly and explained to the group how her mother wandered around before she sought refuge in Kusa after the fall of Azushio. When they found out about her unique healing chakra, they abused it, which eventually led to her death by infection and sustained chakra exhaustion. She then showed him the bite marks on her arms, and she nearly passed out from the explosion of ki coming from Ruto. Ruto growled out, everyone, on all future missions, Kusa is on the shit list. Kill on sight. Am I understood? If their Jonin-sensei is still here, he is mine. Everyone nodded and the tension broke. Ruto apologized for scaring Karen and they proceeded to share an enjoyable dinner. They set guard rotations, mainly to make sure the barriers held for the night, and then the group rested. Ruto checked in on Sasumi and left an earth scroll next to her, which Sakura actually thanked him for in an inside voice. He waved it off and told her the barrier would dispel when they left in the morning. Ruto then went to the scroll collection point outside of the barrier and picked up a couple sealing scrolls along with 3 heaven and 4 earth scrolls. As the sun was rising, teams 12 and 13 were packed up and Karen was sleeping in a stasis scroll. Ruto pocketed the 2 scrolls his team needed, as did team 13, and they left the extra scrolls piled up at the base of the tree. They didn't want all the extra attention, because 7 scrolls meant a lot of dead or incapacitated genin. The Kumo contingent dropped the barriers and set out at max speed to get to the tower. At 745 am on the second day, they arrived at the tower and entered. Both teams opened their sets of scrolls and their Jonin-senseis were summoned. Shina walked over to Ruto and bonked him on the head before hugging him. They escorted the Kumo teams to their rooms, performed another bug sweep and destroyed 4 listening devices before setting up the protective barriers. Somewhere underneath Konoha, Danzo screamed in frustration as 4 root ninjas fell over bleeding from the ears. Shina then began berating Ruto for drawing so much attention to himself. Flashback, Jonin Lounge during first phase. Shina and Darui were watching the monitors and listening to what the cameras and microphones could pick up in the room. She watched the confrontation between Ruto and the Sand team. She wasn't able to hear anything, but seeing Gaara she could guess what that was about. She then watched as Ruto directly involved himself with the silver-haired ninja and painted a target on his back. It was at this point that the questions started flying. Asuma had just entered the Jonin Lounge and watched the whole confrontation. You know, Lady Shina, your boy really stands out in a crowd. Didn't you ever teach him that discretion was the better part of valor? Funny, smokestack, coming from you. Trouble tends to follow my boy around. Rather than run from it, he simply takes it head on. Tell me, Smokey, how many of your genin have freed 2 countries from oppression? Kurenai tried to play peacemaker. Asuma-san, let's not antagonize our guests. Lady Shina, it is clear that they are very well trained. How did Kumo turn its education program around so fast? Let's not talk about village secrets and let's watch our brats. Asuma, on behalf of my Sochi, do you have any advanced wind control techniques that you would be willing to trade for an A-ranked jutsu? Mind you, they better be techniques that are not commonly used. Shina asked. Asuma's eyes bugged out. He prided himself on his wind affinity, but he needed more information. What control exercises has he done thus far? Rock splitting, rock pushing, air current manipulation, and he finally split the water in our pool. It was his naturally strongest affinity, but it fell behind the others due to not having a proper instructor other than his summons. Asuma's cigarette hit the floor as he stared at Sheena along with all of the other Jonin-sensei. When she didn't say anything else, Asuma snapped out of it and thought for a bit. If he had done all of that, he didn't have much to offer. Finally, Might Guy broke the silence. Lady Sheena, are you telling me that your 14-year-old son has done all of that with wind chakra and he has multiple affinities? That is so youthful. Guy's mouth was hanging open and he was genuinely interested, not just fishing for information. Sheena glanced at Kakashi, who nodded, indicating that Guy was one of the ones that he had recruited. Yes, Guy-san. I will not share any more. Oh, come on Sochi. Sheena groaned. On the monitors, Ibiki had just slapped Ruto's boot. The Jonin-sensei made comments about, poor kid, but Sheena knew better. Sure enough, a massive number of clones were summoned a couple minutes later and the Jonin lounge went nuts. Darui chuckled and Sheena sighed and rubbed her temples. Lady Sheena, do you know who did that? Kakashi asked with an eye smile. Can any of your genin make that many shadow clones? Sheena counted. Good point, that is quite a few clones. 99% of Jonin couldn't make that many clones. So, who did it? Kurenai asked. Sheena sighed and Darui snickered. I don't know. End of flashback. Sochi, do you know how stupid it was to antagonize the lead interrogator of an enemy village? The motherly fury in Sheena's voice was potent and directly aimed at Ruto. Ruto pointed to himself and raised his voice. Me. Antagonize. He came at me. All I did was complete his stupid test and kick my feet up. He started it, I finished it, and quite frankly, I won it. Did you see how close I came to making him cry? There were laughs around the room and Sheena balled her fist before letting it go in favor of rubbing her temples. Each of the kids told their version of the time in the Forest of Death. Kushina's hair did her nine-tailed dance when Naruto told her about the encounter with Root and said she would handle it. Kushina was glad that Ruto decided to stop his rampage because it was already more than enough to draw attention. She thanked Ruto for going out of his way to save Sasumi, especially when it came to sparing her the curse mark. She was ecstatic about finding a new family member and looked concerned when Ruto told her about the Oto girl. She said she would interrogate her and see if she is worth all of the effort. Sheena took the two stasis scrolls and told the team that she would see them in a couple of days before she disappeared in a swirl of water. That day at lunchtime, Ruto went to the cafeteria alone to see if the food in the tower was poisoned as well. To his delight, it was not. He let everyone know through the communication seals before he got a big pile of mashed potatoes, some broccoli and some beef. As he sat down, the AM team walked in, and Amy waved to him. He pointed to the food and gave a thumbs up, which Amy understood as an all clear of sorts. After the AM team grabbed their food, they sat next to Ruto to exchange stories. Ruto provided a tame and brief version, which still seemed to impress Amy. Evidently, she stole a scroll from Team 10 and left them upside down and tied up. Ruto laughed as Amy impersonated the loud blonde girl raging. Amy's teammates seemed to be cool enough as the lunch conversation went on. So, Ruto-kun, have you thought about my offer? At the tilt of Ruto's head, she clarified. I show you mine if you show me yours. Can I ask why you are so interested? I thought the old salamander was a xenophobe and didn't want anything to do with foreign ninja. Amy pouted. Yeah, the old man is strict on the closed borders. The problem is I am 16, marriage age in the Hattori clan, but Hattori clan custom dictates that we can only marry those that best us in combat. I am a strong and proud kunoichi, aside from my dad, Yahiko, Conan and Nagato, I have never been beaten. That still doesn't answer why me though. I am sure a couple people in Kumo could give you a run for your money. Ruto decided to play it cautiously. Plus, I told you, I have 2, maybe 3, girlfriends already. You don't seem like the sharing type. Amy's pout deepened. Must you play so hard to get, Ruto-kun? I admit I like a good chase, but you are sucking the fun out of it. Ruto shrugged his shoulders. Amy, if I gave in to every girl who threw their panties at me, then I would be stuck sleeping with girls for most of the day rather than training. I respect that you have clan customs, but I am not actively looking for new girlfriends or fiancés. I am sure a beautiful woman is hidden underneath that mask and rain cloak, but I already have a couple angels in my life that are willing to share me. Answer me this, why should I ruin that? Naruto knew he f up. He knew it as soon as he saw the embers in her eyes turn into a raging fire. He gave himself a mental smack to his own head, which earned snickers from Hikari. Quote, "Oh, come on Hikari-chan. If you are pushing this, then I am bringing Samui and Mabui into the seal so you can broach the subject. Fine by me. Let's go do it now." Naruto groaned and ate the rest of his meal. He said goodbye to Amy and went up to his room. He pulled Samui and Mabui into the seal and went to rest by the lakeside view in his mindscape. The girls seemed to talk for hours before they joined Naruto at the lake's edge. They sat down on either side of him while Hikari turned into a cat-sized kitsune and rested in Naruto's lap. "This is so much better than that dingy old room in the tower," Mabui said in a low and sensual tone. "It is very cool. You know what would make it cooler?" Samui began removing Naruto's shirt when she pulled her hand back with a bite mark on it. Sorry Hikari-chan. I wasn't thinking and that was not cool of me," Samui said while sucking on the bite mark. "Can't we just relax and enjoy the moment, girls? I have my 3 girls cuddled up on me and I want to savor this." Naruto's eyes were closed, and he appeared completely relaxed. I agree with Stud Muffin," Mabui purred out as she nearly fell asleep on Naruto's shoulder. "So, what did you girls talk about?" Naruto asked with genuine curiosity. "It is a secret," purred out Hikari as Naruto pet her tails and she put extra emphasis on secret. "Meanies, I don't hide anything from you." Naruto pouted, which earned sleepy, contented giggles from the girls. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.